Welcome back to another Chris and Retro signature moment. In 2017, it was kind of a turning point. And in fact, if you see on this signature moment, the 17 in the middle of that Christopher, is because 2017 really was the landing spot of a lot of really bad things. And it was the rebound of my life to the point where I could actually come to a place here. Even though things aren't always easy, I'm able to sit in front of you and do videos like this and start a new show. That year in particular saw a lot of different things happen. It saw the ultimate crashing, screeching to a halt of high-risk living. It saw my first glimpse and real opportunity for better days. And it also saw the final penalty I would take for that season in life and all the fear and things that went into that. At one point in time, they were threatening me with 7 years in prison. That became 1 to 3 years based on a technicality and the way many of my charges overlaid with each other. And one clerical error. Ultimately, through all that fear they put me through, it turned into 6 months in county with a 5-year post-release sentence. And that 5-year post-release, there was always the threat of 1 to 3 years in prison if I screwed up. So I had to be accountable to it. Through that winter, though, I was going into it with feeling that high, that I've got things sort of under control and I can start to see some momentum and some trajectory in the right direction. I'd fully surrendered my capacity to a God beyond me. I'd followed a process to make sure things were going well. I was paying a price for the things that I inevitably had to pay a price for, and I felt as though I had an opportunity for better days. But I wasn't prepared really for Thanksgiving of that year. I was in jail. I was away from my kids. I knew Christmas was coming. And on that Thanksgiving, I was sitting in my cell, and the CO came over and said, "Happy Thanksgiving," and handed me a tray. And on that tray was a dried piece of turkey, some peas, and I think some mashed potatoes. On a book I have coming out, the very first line says, "Who knew a turkey could make you so sad?" That's exactly what happened that day. Seeing that turkey represented the total culmination of destruction that I had caused. All the accolades I had in business, all the work I'd done, all the love of my children, all the possibility that I'd had in my life had come down to a jail cell on Thanksgiving with my kids somewhere else and their father who knows where in their mind. I melted. So what does this story do? Well, this and many other stories I hope lead to the same reason why we're doing this show. Why did that turkey make me so sad, and what do I do about it? Well, it represented abandonment of my children and my responsibilities. It represented irresponsibility that landed me here to have a Thanksgiving that I always look forward to being like it was. I deserved it. I deserved more. But the emotion hit then because reality was there and there wasn't anything I could do about it. But was there? You know, we've learned there's a book called Shackletons Way. It's a story about Ernest Shackleton, the explorer. If you know me, you've heard this story multiple times probably. In that story, he kept a shipwrecked crew in the Antarctic alive for almost 2 years. Not one person passed away. They created a sense of community. But one of the real wins for that is that every single day they had a job. And every single day they felt progress. And in that progress, they found hope. That story has played out for me multiple times over in my recovery and my building my life. But at the same time, that story was one that I heard well before in a leadership class at one of the large corporations I worked for. So those lessons then played through. So now back to the turkey. Why does that even matter? What are you going to do in a jail cell with a turkey? Well, I had options. I could cry. I could go back to my bed. I could sulk. I could be in despair for weeks. Or I had the other option. Eat the turkey. That doesn't sound like a big deal probably, but it is. Because it was going forward. And it was going at my situation. I was moving forward. I was moving through that meal that day. Then I stayed with my routine that day. And then I started to write that day. And out of that writing that day, I found some verses in the Bible that inspired me. I found the foundation of iBlock Chronicles, which was a blog that turned into a podcast, which turned into a book, which turned into another book, which turned into Chris and Retro. All from a turkey. Because I made a decision to do something and show progress. The same thing that Ernest Shackleton learned on the ice, the same thing I learned in that jail cell, the same thing I've learned multiple times in my entire life. Today is the day that I make a difference for what I'm going to do tomorrow. The progress that I can demonstrate today might not get me to the end goal, but at least I'm moving forward. Conor McGregor, like him or not, as a fighter, when he first came up through, he described that Jose Aldo, the greatest fighter in the world and the champion of his division that time, was not an obstacle for him because he was his only opponent. He would go forward and go at him. And for me, and that turkey, for Ernest Shackleton and the ice, and for you in your life, today you might not see the future. You may not know how to get out of your bad situation. But as the show, one of the tenets of this show is that your hope is closer than it seems, closer than it appears. And the reason that can happen is because you do move forward. You give yourself new opportunities and new peripheral view. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. I really appreciate the support. Any comments are more than welcome. Send me an email if you'd like as well. And if you have questions about this episode or any other things you'd like to see for content on the show, you can reach me at chris@chrisinretro.com. Also, stay tuned into our monthly events. Those monthly podcast events have an audio reach throughout all the podcast channels, and I try to make sure I bring in guests that are compelling to the conversations that we're having here. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll talk to you soon.